Hello wonderful people. In this presentation I'm having a look at mockups as a design tool. So this is something that we use to get our thinking in order before we actually start writing code. So in the problem solving methodology we have the analysis stage where we're defining what our problem is and working out what's required of us. The design is about, hey, how are we going to actually make this? And this is what we do before we write any code. So we're talking about what it looks like, what the information flows are. It's almost kind of quasi-coding in that you're saying, here's a lot of the thinking that I'm going to be doing during the coding process, but you're reducing your cognitive load so that you don't have to do all of that while you're fighting with code. So our learning intention is that you can explain what a mock-up is and what it's used for. So what is a mock-up? There's an example of one. Well, it's a detailed visual representation of a digital interface. Mock-ups do exist in other disciplines, so if you Google mock-ups you will find things about them that aren't to do with software, but that's what it is in the software context. So it is developed by the developer. It is not interactive. So it's actually not a program, it's not a substitute for a program, and I have made this mistake of thinking, oh, I'll just make the mock-up in actual code. You know what, use a mock-up tool, it's actually much easier. It demonstrates the layout, the functionality, and what the user experience is. So you can take these mock-ups, and you probably should, and put them in front of a user and say, hey, what's the first thing that you're going to do? If you want to order a burger from us, what are you going to press on? And then you say to them, well, this is what will happen next. Here's the next screen. What are you going to do? So you can kind of do some play acting of interactivity, but it's not actually built into the mock-up. So what is the benefit of making a mock-up? So if you and I were here in person, I'd be getting you to jump over to the show board and telling me some of those things, but I'm going to go right ahead and talk about them since you're not here in person. So part of it is to visualize our design concepts. You know, we might be wanting to try something a little bit new, something a bit innovative, or we might just be sticking to the tried and true. You know, we've got our bar over here, we've got our menu at the top, but whether you're being traditional or radical, it's a good way to kind of map it out, what it is that you're actually going to talk about, in a way that you can communicate with other people. You can, sorry, I don't know what just hit the window there. You can show this to the client, you can show this to the development team, you can show it to the product owner, the project manager, and they can give you feedback in a way that's not going to take you a huge amount of effort to change it. And as I said before, you can test the effectiveness with actual users. It's really good because you are just sketching it out. I'll come to this later, but you shouldn't spend long on creating these. And so you can identify issues early, and it's not going to be expensive in terms of time to fix them. Couple of things to keep in mind is your mock-up doesn't have to be perfect. I often see people over-investing in their mock-ups. You should be able to bash together a mock-up in kind of 10 to 20 minutes. And pen and paper is actually really good for this. If you're doing this for your SAT or your SAC, this just pen and paper, you can get a lot done. And as I said, it shouldn't take very much time. So, as I said earlier, the layout, the content placement, what's going to be interactive, and how do we navigate our way through. So there is more than one thing that gets called a mock-up. We do have our paper mock-ups, and I think they're actually a fantastic way to produce them at speed. What they call digital low fidelity, which is what most of the stuff I've looked at, sometimes called wireframes. High fidelity mock-ups are used more to express the typography and the colours and the actual finished graphics and so forth. You probably have these later in a project, and the sorts of projects we're doing at school you probably wouldn't bother with that. And an interactive mock-up, which is basically it's like the application in that some of the links work and stuff, and we don't really need that at school. The first two are probably what we need at school. So some of the useful tools are Google Draw, Mockups, which is a dedicated site, Lucidchart's quite good, Canva apparently does it, and Figma. So, now this says useful tools, but it's actually a true and false question, so I'll just get you to ignore that heading for now. So a mockup is a fully functional prototype that includes all back-end code and database connections. Well, that's false. It's not interactive at all. It certainly has no connection to the back ends, or the front end for that matter. It's not interactive. Mockups are primarily used to visualize the user interface and layout before development begins. Well, that's true. Good mockups eliminate the need for beta testing. Well, that actually turns out to be false. Beta testing actually addresses a different need than mockups. Mockups is about addressing, you will pick up some of the same issues in terms of navigation and so forth, but if you've made good use of your mockups, you shouldn't get a heap of feedback in the beta testing about the interface. Hopefully you're using it more to iron out bugs, but they are both necessary. And certainly it's a lot easier to make changes at the start of the process than it is at the end. Mockups typically show how users will interact with the software and navigate between screens. Well, that is true. Mockups, I think I've mashed that sentence. Mockups should include information about server-side processing and algorithms. Well, no, that's literally not what they do. Mockups can help identify design flaws and usability issues early in the development process. Yeah, well, that's 100% true. That's like one of their key virtues. It's considered good practice to create mockups at a high level of detail with complete visual design before discussing them with the stakeholders. I actually nearly got caught by this question. The trick is, what they're saying is basically make them perfect. And the answer is no, that's not true. They can actually be fairly rough and ready as long as they're representing the key concepts. And finally, mockups serve as a communication tool between designers, developers and clients to establish a shared understanding, and that absolutely is true. So before I go, let's have a very quick look at the mockups. So I'm going to log in. I'm actually just using my school ID for this, and oh, there you go. I'm already logged in. I'm just going to use a blank project, and I'm just going to make something quick and easy here. So here in the stencils is a really good place to find the stuff that we use for software design. So let's see a nav. Oh yeah, so I've got some tabs there. So there you go, I've got that. I'm just going to stretch that out. There you go. What else would I like? Let's have an input field. I know I said input field, but I'm picking a drop-down menu there. Then I'm going to have a text field. And then I'm going to have a label. So let's just go up here and type label. And so as you can see, this is actually a very quick and easy way, and I can put together my interface really quickly so that I can talk to other people about it. So I hope this has been a useful presentation, and I'll see you soon.